welcome to Scrappin with Sheri. We are on to page 66 in our sketchbook, and I'm kind of having flashbacks of that page we did that had all the hexagons because I'm seeing all these little circles and they're kind of freaking me out. But the good thing is I've kept an old tool, and it's the old circle maker from Creative Memories, and I think it's going to make all these circles a lot easier to do. Now, you can use the custom cutting system. It says use the smallest custom cutting system pattern with the red blade, and you use that on the inside. So you can do this with the custom cutting system as well, but I would much rather punch the circles and get it done more quickly. Now, this is the larger circle maker from a long time ago, and this is a 1.5 inch, so that's what I'll be using. Now, I'm using these pictures from one of the lighthouses we visited in Michigan. This is the Grand Haven Lighthouse and South Pier. And I was looking through my collections to see what would be the best paper choice. And I landed on Seaside because look at the colors. We've got the darker blues, we've got the red, we've got the lighter blue skies. And I'm just thrilled with the colors in this Seaside collection. Now, this is kind of my anchor piece. And I say that because when I look at it, it's the one that I'm making sure all of my other colors are going to go with, because this is going to be my pattern. If you look at theirs, they've got some pretty good patterns here, and it's the same one repeated. So I'm going to be using this a lot to make all of my colors coordinate. Now, the fact that these are all from the same collection means automatically they coordinate, but making sure that you have a pattern or a print, something that's going to tie them all together, is also important. And I'm just punching as I talk here because we got to have a lot of these circles. Now, I was looking at the patterns. We need 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of the patterns. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I've got that. And I did make sure that we've got some different colors, different patterns in there. So I've got 6 of the patterns. Again, great way to use up scraps. Now, when I was looking, I also love this. I love this red. There's a blue on it I can use, but I felt like I needed to introduce this beigey color just a little bit. So I pulled this. I believe this is from the Welcome Home collection, and I wanted to use some of these as well, just to add in a little bit more color and to bring some of this beigey color out here. So I'm going to do maybe 3 of these. You don't really need a ton of each color, so smaller scraps would work. This just happens to be what I had handy. I'm going to use this one. This has got the little anchors and the lobsters on it, which I think is really cute. I want a little close to the top there. My papers are all catching in this punch. Not sure why. Let's see if we can squeeze one more out of here. And it's okay to do your punches upside down so you can see where you're pushing. That's often very helpful. And then we're going to go on to this red. So I'm going to do 3 on the red side, but then I'm going to make sure, yeah, I like that blue that's on that side of the back as well. This darker blue would actually be a nice contrast, so I think I'll go that way. Yeah, I'm wrecking this red sheet of paper, but, you know, I can probably cover it up with some borders or mats or something down the road. I like having the variations in that. Now, you probably noticed I'm not using this blue right now, and I'm going to veer off of the sketch just a little bit because I want to build this look onto my blue sheet and then have it to attach to my background paper. I don't want to just put it straight on the page because I am going to make this a 2-page spread. Surprise, surprise. And in doing that, I want to be able to separate these circles to carry over to the next page. So I need to cut this. Now my sizing here, it doesn't say exactly what size, but it tells me that this border is 7 7/8. which is almost 8 inches. So if I cut this about 4.5, I should have plenty of space to play with. I'm sure that's going to be just a little bit big, but it'll give me some room to wiggle there. Make sure that I can get everything done in the space I'm allotted. So we're going to do that. And one other thing we need to cut are these little strips, and they are 3/16, which is almost 1/4 of an inch, but not quite. So let's figure out how we can get to a 3/16. It's going to be a little tiny piece. Man, that's small. Okay, I think what I'm going to do is just go to this second cutting line on here. It's going to be a tiny, tiny piece. And we need 3 of those. And I am cutting this out of one of the darker gray cardstock pieces. The cardstock seems to have enough durability to hold up well, even with these tiny little pieces. So we've got that. All right, so let's look at putting this thing together. All right, so when putting this together, we want to alternate our prints and our patterns. Remember, this is the pattern I'm going to kind of keep on several different places. And part of the reason I chose this was the color variation in it. I really liked that. So if we do something like that, and then over here, they are kind of close. I may need to even cut a different blue strip to make this work. So that one's going to be up a little higher. So these are going to kind of go in between my earlier patterns. And then I can go back and add these in between. Kind of like playing tic-tac-toe, it looks like. I'm going to make sure my lobsters are all going the right direction. All right, so when I get this laid on here, I'm seeing that it's going to be pretty hard to cut between these and not cut off pieces. Now, is that going to be a big deal to me? I don't know. And I'm just going back and filling these in between. I do want to make sure my spacing is kind of even. And this would probably be a good place to pull out your mat if you're real picky about your spacings. Pull out that 13-inch mat to help you get them all exactly even. That one's going off the top. And we're going to need one more of those beigey ones. Let me chop one more of those real quick. And then we'll fill in here with the blues. So probably rather than stick this far side, I'm going to use this other little piece of paper I had. And I'm going to keep 2 of the circle patterns on one side and put the third one on a whole nother piece, because that one is going to go onto my other page. I hope this is making sense to you, but I know in my head it's got to be a 2-page spread. So I don't want all the design to be on one page and nothing on the other. All right, now you know what the hard part is. It's getting that little bitty strip underneath all of those circles. So we're going to use our repositionable tape for that. I may do some of these different directions just to make the pattern look a little bit different. It's kind of cool too. This light blue actually has some lines in it, which is, I don't know if it affects the design or not, but it's interesting that it's got the lines in it already, so that the patterns are kind of offset on there. It's just an interesting look. I love this Seaside collection. This has been one of my favorites for anything beach, anything lighthouse. It's even good for patriotic Just the colors are just awesome for this. Okay, and those are relatively evenly spaced. Could go down just a hair more on all these. And give me a little more space at the top. I'll turn that so it doesn't look just like the one at the top. So that one is done. Let's add our other stripe on this other sheet. And remember, the only reason I'm doing this on a separate piece of paper is so I can use this as a 2-page spread. There's nothing on this that indicates that you need to do that. But in my mind, I'm just thinking this is going to make it easier to do a 2-page spread. I could have built it directly on the background pages, but I haven't figured out my background pages yet. And I did want to make sure that I ended up with all these different colors that I wanted. And then I'll choose the background based on how things are going to show up. And again, you know, having that one coordinating pattern really helps out a lot because it just makes everything match better. Now, as I'm putting these on, I'm trying to make sure they're kind of going in towards the centers of the ones on this line. Because when I do get them on that 2-page spread, it's going to look like this one border. It's just going to be spaced out a little more between the 2 pages. Okay, so we've got one more line to do, and we're gonna have to cut one more strip because mine disappeared. Good thing that's not one of those pieces that I used every scrap up to do those strips before, and I guarantee I'll find that strip just as soon as I finish this. And I can spread these out a little bit. I think that's kind of the beauty of doing it over a 2-page spread. If these seem a little far apart, it's okay because it's going to go onto a different page anyway. If I were doing it on one page, I wouldn't want to spread it so far because it would take up all the room for pictures. This is kind of a big design, and I do have a lot of pictures to go on this page. And that one, I may turn that sideways. I like it when you can get your embellished part done early on. And there we go. We've got all of our circles attached. Looky there. There's that stripe. It was laying right in there. Knew you would find it. Now we don't need it. I'm going to cut this one down. And I could just flip it over. The issue with doing that is the way I've laid out my patterns, it would be a problem to just flip it over. The patterns wouldn't be where I need them to be. And then I'm also going to take, I really need to take my ends off of this first, where my circles go over the edge. One more. And then I need to cut in a little bit closer on this so it's not taking up quite so much space. And I am looking at my line here as well to make sure that I'm lined up well over on this other side. Sometimes my pages just don't, the papers just seem a little off. And I think sometimes it has to do with the fact that I've tilted my page a little bit. I don't know. But it's always good to have 2 different measurements to work off of. All right, so we got that part of the design done. That's probably going to be the hardest part of all of it. So, yay. Now, my next step is going to be in choosing background colors. And I have several different options. I was looking at this with this gray color on the kind of a tweedy gray, and I really like that a lot. I'm looking at what I have 2 sheets of course. I've got this that's kind of dark. This that's a wood look. I think that's almost too much with all I've got going on with the circles. A couple of other pieces that are extremely busy. I really like that, but I don't have two of those. Let's see what else we've got in this other package. You know, this has been a tough quest for me trying to use up papers. It's working pretty well, but, you know, sometimes I'm just not willing to give up the paper because I just think it's so pretty. Do you ever do that? Do you just hoard paper thinking, oh, I'm going to use that at some point down the road, and you just don't want to do it now? I've got one of those reds. I do really like the red. We do have this red. I don't have another piece of it. I don't have another piece of that. I think I'm going to go with the grays. I would like to just say, oh, it doesn't bother me, and I will just go with the non-matchies. Oh, wait a minute, y'all. Oh, look. I found the reds. All right, we're going to make it bright. We're going with the reds. So let me lay this down and then see what else we have to add to this to make it look like the sketch. So we've got our two background pieces. We've got all of our pretty little circles here. I really do like the look of that. I like it across 2 pages. It's not quite as busy that way. And we need a border here. So we've got a 1 1/4 stripe, top and bottom, and we're gonna need to carry that across 2 pages. So let's go back to this gray that we used, and we need 4 1 1/4 stripes. And I could cut these down, but I don't really need to save a small piece of a 1 1/4 inch stripe, so I'm not going to cut that down. I'm just going to adhere it right behind what we've got going on. Let's get our tape again. And I'm going to stick this almost to the top, but not quite. And then again at the bottom, I'll just leave a little bit of red showing along the top and bottom. It's a nice look. And then we're going to stick this strip that we made on that. And that one will go all the way top to bottom. And then we'll do the same on the opposite side. And I'm actually going to scoot it here so I can make sure that I line these gray strips up the same. And then we'll just flip it back around. And I'm kind of looking at the variation in color on my paper. I think I want to make it go this direction. And I'm just lining up the gray strips right there on the edge. Just trying to get the same distance showing below. The same amount of red showing below the gray strip. Now let's move these back to where they need to be. And you can tell my gray strip is just a touch shorter than my red paper. Occasionally there's a little bit of variation in paper sizing. I don't fret a lot over that. I don't feel like it's a big deal. If it bothers you, you probably need to cut it down just a little bit. Now the next thing we're going to add to this, according to our sketch, is a border on these strips that we just put on. And I'm actually going to use a punch that was an incentive several years ago, a couple of years ago maybe, and it was the Lighthouse Border Punch. This is not the same as the Lighthouse Punch that was an incentive recently, but I really wanted the border look of this, so I'm going to go ahead with the border punch on this. And I'm lining up on the black line right on the front of it, and then I'll just punch and cover the blue. And you just keep punching and covering the blue. This is a piece of paper still out of this Seaside collection. It's kind of a sandy look. I didn't even realize I had it, or I probably would have used it for that beigey color there. It's a little bit different, not a lot, and I'm not going to redo those circles. But I think this is kind of neat. It kind of looks like sand castles to me. But it is lighthouses, because this page will be all about lighthouses, or a lighthouse. And I am going to need 4 of these borders, but I'm only going to punch 2 for now. I'll lay it out and we'll see where we are on this page, and then I'll finish it up and you'll see the finished product. And really the only other thing left, they've added a sheet of paper inside here to put their pictures on. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to leave my pictures directly on the red, and you'll see why when I pull those pictures back out. But I think they're going to be very complimentary on that red. Now these lighthouses, I'm just going to put right along that, here and here. They did go off the top a little bit. I'm okay with that. If I had measured them before I cut the strips, I probably would have cut the strips a little bit wider, but in the scheme of things, that's not a great big deal. Now, this was a postcard that they gave us at one of the visitor stands. I like it because I like the coloring and everything here. It has the name of the lighthouse. I'm not tied into using that, so it's a maybe. And I also do a lighthouse book, so some of these pictures can go in my lighthouse album. And I do want the title on here, and that's easy enough. There are several pictures of us, and I know there's one of us together. Yeah, some really nice people walking by said, hey, we could take your picture together if you like. So I've got a couple here that hubby took of me. One where I'm kind of holding the lighthouse up. I think I'll use that one over here. It's got the house and the lighthouse. This was actually, maybe I need to start with that. This is actually our first view of that lighthouse, and that was from a totally different place. So that's kind of fun. And look, if I put the pictures whole on here, I'm not even going to see the lighthouse down here on this side. Probably will be the same on this side. So we may only need 2 lighthouses. So we've got this side. There was a neat little, I don't even know what it's called, just some kind of awning or something that went across there. It was kind of neat to see. There's hubby on the back side of that house. We don't really need that. There's him holding the little lighthouse down. I've already got both of us with the lighthouse. I don't need me under this. We've got the back side of this house. So instead of that, we could do the 2 of us just having fun right there. Or I could flip these around and make that work here, this one here, and then we could do one more. We could do the one of him holding it down, and then do the one of me holding it up. Yeah, we'll flip those. So this gives me a little room to journal. I'll scoot this over and do my journaling here. I've gotten all these pictures on here. I'm not missing anything important by leaving these pictures off. So here's our layout. Not exactly like the sketch, because here again, they've got a border top and bottom. We've lost our bottom border, but I managed to keep my pictures whole. And I got 7 pictures on the double spread, which I'm thrilled with. I'll do my journaling on some of those right now strips. So I'll finish this out and post the picture, and you'll get to see where I did the embellishments and what it looks like totally finished. But until I see you next time, page 66 is done, and happy scrapping.